and our big guest interview for tonight is a man who particularly, well, many of you know, have known him for many years, but particularly in the last year or two, he has exploded onto our small screens, the smallest of screens, showing us sides of South African culture and food and encounter that we've never had before. He is the reason why so many South Africans now go to his Instagram page to find out what they're eating tonight and tomorrow night and for Christmas. He has an incredibly famous intro, and so I'm not going to tell you who he is. He's going to tell you himself in the style of all of his videos. Right down camera one, please.
I'm Nick Hamman, and you're live on the Dan Corder Show.
Yeah! Nick Hamman is here.
Hello.
What happened?
Oh, with this same color T-shirt thing.
The maroon is unusual.
It's highly low down the list of colors that people actually wear. I have no idea. I didn't get a note or memo or anything, but I think that you look slightly better than me.
Nah, I just think we've known each other for like 11 years now, so it was eventually going to happen.
We're synced.
Yes. So Nick Hamman, for those who don't know, is an iconic radio presenter who's been on 5FM for a long time. But in the last year or two, you have taken your love of food and what you've done for such a long time on the radio, your love of South African culture. You do the Heritage Tour on 5FM, and you have really become like a stratospheric household name in the world of food. But you haven't just gone, hey, I like this dish, here's some hummus, look at me, follow me online. What do you think it is about the way that you've shown people foods and restaurants and cultural communities in South Africa that has really struck a chord with people?
Well, thank you. That's a very kind intro. And it's, as you said, it's that overnight stars are made over 10 years. So for me, over the course of the last decade of my public life, I've been really interested in traveling and seeing South Africa. And one thing that you realize when you do that is that there are at least 10 different South Africas. And for the most part, these South Africas barely know each other. They don't integrate much with each other. And they're all, in their own way, filled with such beautifully rich and tremendous history and culture. And one of the strongest conduits to any of that is food. And so when I was doing the heritage tours or Africa tours that I did on the radio, or when I walked to Polokwane in 2016 from Joburg, I was...
Yeah, think about that
true
sentence.
Story, yeah, 330 kilometers on foot over 2 weeks. I was always taken and fascinated by the celebration that people had around food, but I never really knew how to articulate it. And then one day I just picked up a camera and started doing the things that I was doing anyway, and everything changed. And I think it's just because is this thing that we all do understand and we all do know. So I didn't invent anything. I didn't do anything differently to anybody else. I just had my story and I started telling it.
And so most recently you showed us Chinese New Year. A lot of people saw a pig's head being cooked for the first time, a pig's face. But you've done so many different things. So you've gone into the old Joburg CBD, you've gone to Durban, you've encountered and shown us not just like food cultures that a lot of South Africans know, whether it be Indian food or the likes, but like different sides of those food cultures. But what you've also done is you have gone, come to this place, eat from this family place. They've been here for 20 or 30 years. They make this iconic dish. They mean this to this community. And I'd like you to tell me about the storytelling that's involved in you going, I'm going to introduce you to this wonderful thing, because it's clearly struck a nerve. Do you know how many times these places then say, we've like booked out more than we've ever been? Because Hammy did a video about this place.
Yeah, we've had stories where guys have gone from working in the back of their dad's homes to owning franchise stores. It's a remarkable thing to be able to do. But from a very early age, when I started moving from Cape Town to Johannesburg, I realized that there are all these institutions that have these like multi-generational stories behind them. And a lot of it is shrouded in like fantasy and folklore, and it's all about like people swearing this place is the best or that's the best, and you have to come to this place after dark and you have to know about something on the special menu, and there's like all this lore surrounding food generally in South Africa, and all of that is very closely linked to culture and people and families and stories. And that's something that always excited me, and I wanted to show that to other people. And what happens now, for the most part, is when I started doing it, I had a couple of different places that I knew about just from growing up. As I mentioned, you know, living in Cape Town, you work at a radio station like Good Hope FM there, and you go and do a party, and the party's in Athlone, and they take you to Golden Dish after you're done. And you get told, like, a Gatsby there, a masala steak Gatsby is the best thing in the world, and you're this excited, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed kid, and you eat it for the first time, and immediately you feel connected to this much bigger story. Moving to Joburg was the same thing, because Joburg is way more South Africa than Cape Town is, and suddenly all these different communities and all these different stories start opening up.
When I moved
start
here,
hearing
you
about
took me
stories.
to Dosa Huts in Fordsburg, and I felt like I got the experience that is now the Instagram Nick Hamond experience.
Yes, but that's what I'm talking about. It's like I've always just liked doing this, and now I get to do it to the world, so it's nothing new in my life.
Yeah, no, man, it's amazing. So how often do you go and have a really bad time at a place?
All the time.
Okay. Do those videos get on the internet?
No. And I've spoken about that a lot. So I have seen what I've been able to positively do for businesses. I've had this ability to take people from small mom and pop shops into huge success stories. And that for me is more than just selling meals for these people. It's kids that are going to get through school or varsity, or it's people that are going to buy cars. And like, these are all tangible stories that I've heard. And in a country that desperately needs upliftment, I feel that using the power of the platform I have to do the opposite under the guise of a seeming transparent or authentic, I feel like it's just a waste of time. Negative content does really well on social media. There's plenty of people who will say, like, I'm going to do an actual honest review. And then people who have, they trash baits. They don't necessarily know anything about food or culture or whatever, but they know that people are going to follow them if they say, oh, this place is actually terrible, even though everyone likes it. If I have a bad experience, I just leave the video and I don't post it. I don't see any reason to.
And the restaurant goes, where's the video? And you go, eh.
I ghost.
And speaking of how well negativity does online, now and again you do get criticized for various things. I remember that you, for a while, I don't know if it still happens, got criticized for like celebrating places in what are considered dangerous areas of cities.
All the time. Yeah.
And I wanted to know what you thought about that, but also any other common criticisms that you get for your material. Like, do some restaurants or like go, how dare you say this is the best, I don't know, burger, when this is actually, we're the best burger, when are we getting a turn?
Yeah, so on the best thing, I mean, in all my videos, if anyone who hasn't seen them, I always kind of, I make the claim, like, is this potentially the best place in South Africa? And if it's not, let me know. The positive side of that is communities get super involved and people passionately tell you that, no, you're absolutely wrong. You have to come to Durban because there's a far better burger here or a pizza here or whatever it is. And that's, I would say, like 99% of people. You do get a couple that get very weirdly offended by the claim that something is the best. Obviously, food cannot be like objectively, tangibly the best. It's a matter of opinion. It's food. It's your taste buds. But in terms of the idea of people getting upset for me promoting areas that are seemingly dangerous, there's two things I'll say on that. The one thing is, sure, there are dangerous places in the world. Like, there's a lot of places that you would statistically be more likely to be in harm's way than others. But I do also think that, particularly in South Africa, there's a massive over-indexing on people thinking that areas they don't know about are unsafe.
For sure.
And I think that that's part of our country's legacy and history. And I think that still a lot of people on both sides of the coin don't leave where they're from. Yeah. These imaginary lines exist in people's minds where some people feel like I'm not allowed to go to nice areas, and other people feel like areas where millions and millions of South Africans live are dangerous, and they've been told not to go there.
And can't possibly have any good food spots in them.
Or anything worth doing, and I'm trying to change that in some way, because I'm trying to get people to move and actually see their country and understand it, so that when something happens in the news or there's a big event that's going down and like suddenly a person maybe feels not entirely removed from it, living in those 10 different South Africas. Sure. I'd like there to be one South Africa.
So you've been admirably modest in this interview, which is fine.
I mean, to brag about stuff. What do
you have been very like, oh no, it's just me and it's small, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that you have been able to motivate people to go to places and eat food that they never have. And people, like, I've worked with people who are like, oh, Nick Hamond posted again, I'm gonna have to cancel my weekend plans. I literally need to go and do that instead. And there are people who religiously follow all the places that you go. What do you think it is about what you are doing that I think must be at least a little different from the average, I don't know, food influencer?
I don't know. Dan knows me well enough to know that I don't like being self-reflective. So I've never really thought about that. But I do think that it is, I think people relate to authenticity. And I think that, especially in the food space on social media, as I said, there is a lot of negative rage baity review stuff that's out there. And there's also a lot of, I don't like slander a particular establishment, but there's a lot of food content that is part of a tribe of influencers who are very much like, look at how great my life is, and look at these amazing things that I have, and I eat at the fancy places, selling the dream to people. Whereas in reality, the best foods are hiding inside small eateries and people's homes and tiny kitchens that never would have otherwise seen the light of day. And I think there's something very South African in promoting that. We are like an underdog country. We're all about the little guy. We're all about the lesser known. And I was able to tap into that, and I think that that's what people like.
Amazing. So where is this all going? You're an extremely ambitious person who is constantly cooking, not like ideologically, but like creatively, but also literally. And I'm sure, and I mean, I know you just started posting on YouTube, about time.
Yeah.
But like, where does this go from here? Because you can do this forever, and people will love it and enjoy forever. I know that you've been like mobilizing corporates to contribute donations to food kitchens and try to do that kind of stuff. But creatively, where does this go from?
So yeah, we have been able to do amazing things.
Incredible
like we're
things.
we're trying to raise R1 million for the first autism school in Soweto. We've got 300,000 rand already just through our social media. We started a month ago. I have launched a YouTube channel. It's called Hammy Eats. If I can plug it, that's amazing. Go and check it out. I really want that to be
now you see, you can use that
year.
TV clip on your YouTube.
I'm going to. It'll be there. And then the other big thing that we are launching in February is our website, hammyeats.co.za. And the idea behind it is a lot of people always say to me, I love your page and I want to follow what you're doing, but it becomes very hard because you're posting like a video a day, and I maybe one morning wake up and feel like something specifically Greek or Chinese or a shisanyama, and I don't know how to find it. So the website is a searchable way for you to do that. So you go onto the website, there's South African categories, so there's parcels and steak sandwiches and Gatsby's and kotas or whatever you want, or there's international things, so you can go like Afghan food or Pakistani food or whatever, and then it takes you straight to where the restaurant is, it shows you my review, it shows you the contact number, it gives you a map. That's the next thing we're doing.
Okay, and then my final question. Yeah, that is awesome. And then my final question is, how does it emotionally feel to be responsible for so many people's good time?
I've often, yeah.
Do you ever lie awake at night and go, man, I sent them all to that Chinese place. What if they all get sick? Like, I would be like, wow, that is a burden.
Yeah. Because I've had a public life for the last decade, I think I've got quite used to all different sides of it. And I've always believed that if you get an ego as a consequence of good praise, you will be destroyed by negativity. And so I kind of have a relatively healthy way in which I see myself as separate to all of the things that I create and do, and my personal life is not the same as my online life. However, I will say that I do often get messages from people saying, like, I got food poisoning. And then you kind of want to message them back and say, well, I don't know if it happened because of the place you went to. I doubt you know whether it did or didn't. And if it did, I am genuinely sorry.
But it didn't happen when you went.
But it didn't happen when I went. Otherwise, it would have fallen into the well of things that I don't post. And so I kind of just take it all with a pinch of salt as it comes. But it is bizarre and overwhelming and amazing.
Yeah, your taste buds are the taste buds. The reference point taste buds. And your stomach's constitution to survive hot food is now responsible for everybody's tolerance for hot food.
I get in trouble for that a lot as well.
Do you?
Because I'll go and I'll eat something really, really hot, and I'll say, this was so delicious, and my head was kind of sweating, but it wasn't too bad, and people DM me and they say, like, that was torturous, the experience that you put me through.
Okay, last question then, Hammy, and it comes from what you just said, is, like, you probably get recognized a lot for this now, and people come to you with opinions and that. Has this kind of latest launch in a very long public life already force you to deal with more, whether you like it or not, public celebrity when you go outside? And how have you dealt with it?
I mean, definitely. I mean, being in radio, it's the furthest thing from a medium that people come up to you and recognize you for, even if your voice is exceptionally recognized. And all the TV work that I'd done prior to this had also just been my voice. So usually what would happen is I would start talking and then somebody would say, you're definitely that guy, right? So now it has changed, and it's changed massively. And again, the thing that you realize about the world is that human beings are inclined to be positive and nice. And that is 99.9% of the interactions you have. And that 0.1%, I don't know if it's the same for you, because I know that you live a similar life, that 0.1% is all on the internet. Yeah. In real life, you don't meet people that are negative. And I think because as humans, we're actually smarter than we get credit for, and we're actually more balanced than we get credit for. And if someone doesn't like you, they'll probably just continue sat where they were and not see a reason to come up and start some sort of a hostile situation.
Yeah.
So I love it. I dig it. It's genuinely amazing to have people come up and say nice things and give me recommendations and ask me, where was that place you were recently? I really want to go. My wife wants to go, whatever, like, or take a photo. I think it's a performance review. Any job that anybody ever has, you have to sit down in front of your boss one day and say, is it or isn't it going well? So long as I get asked for a photo, I'm doing okay.
I think the big difference between you and me is that if it's like the Batman mask. If I'm not wearing these, I can
They
be
don't know who you
anonymous.
are.
Nobody knows who I am.
If I don't
at
have
all.
food on my chin, then they don't know who I am.
Thank you so much, Nick Hamond, for that wonderful interview. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.